Good morning again. Welcome to Stroke of Genius Podcast Executive Experience, where we spotlight really special executive business leaders. Today, I have someone on my show that what she does is, her and I got this whole podcast a minute ago in the green room. Her name is Lisa. Oh gosh, Schermerhorn. Sorry, Lisa Schermerhorn. And she's a mindset coach. And you want to know it makes me different, different from all other stroke survivors I know in this world. Mindset. And you're about to meet someone that specializes in. And I'm just so excited to have her. So let me tell you a little about her. She's children, raised two children while she was going through deep depression. She was walking, get this, you guys are gonna really love this. She walked for a week on broken glass, hot calls, and active band rebar on her throat to challenge herself for courage, to muster the courage to live a marriage of 29 years. And one of my top experts I really need to get in to talk to her about is learning to love herself. So let me bring on Lisa, and I am just so giddy with anticipation. So let me bring her on. Hold on.
The Stroke of Genius podcast, hosted by brain aneurysm and stroke survivor Aaron Avila, sharing the experiences of survivors and CEOs. This is your destination for inspiration.
Hey, good morning, Lisa.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me here. And you said my name perfectly. I was impressed. You did it better than the first time I did. So,
I just can't say having you on my show this morning. It's just what you and I know working on the energy level that is exciting, honestly. So I appreciate you that being here. So thank you for being on the show. I do have a question for you. What is mindset?
oh, that's a loaded question. But,
Not
for
it.
the most, you know what? Your mindset is what guides you through life. It's the lens that you see the world. And you can very easily see it through the lens of I can't, or a fixed mindset that's called, or you can see it through the lens of a growth mindset. And we spoke earlier about the idea that we live inside these boxes that are basically we put upon ourselves. But when we realize that we don't have any boxes, that we are free to explore, one of the things I talk about is I'm a why coach, and there's actually 9 different types of whys. And my why is challenge. So I challenge the status quo, I challenge conventional thinking. And so that's where my mindset is. I'm always thinking, how can I do something differently? How can I, because for me, getting back to my own story, I had a nervous breakdown. I was suicidal. I was going to conventional therapists 2 to 3 times a week. People wanted me to go on medication. And I just knew that I needed something else because nothing was working. And when I found something that worked in the unconscious mind and helped me get to the root cause of my issues faster, I saw the changes that happened in me and the way I saw the world. It was like someone put a new set of glasses on me that I saw the world differently. And then I thought, there's got to be other people who are going through what I am. So I set out to be the person that I was looking for 20 years ago when I was searching, because I didn't want people to go through that kind of pain. And I'm not dissing talk therapy at all. I've been there and I use it. I've used it in my life, and it serves a purpose. But the mindset work that I do goes deeper into helping you really shift, because we're actually programmed. I don't know if people realize this. We're born and then our brains are at a different frequency when we are born. So right now, you and I are at something called beta, which is a small wave. When we're born, we're at something called delta, which is a really big wave. And then we go into something called theta, which is another big wave. Everything that we are taught from the time we are born, and even in utero, because I've actually brought people back to the time when they were a fetus and they felt the feelings and of their mother and what was going on. And so sometimes if there's a situation going on and they're not felt wanted, they can come into the world with this unconscious belief system that they don't even know where it came from. So there's so many different ways of going back to a newborn. What does a newborn have to learn? Light, sound, language, taste, emotion. It's extraordinary. And then you get into the state of theta. What I was talking about is the elementary school kids. That's the state of imagination. That's why kids are always running around making mud pies and sticks or guns. And they're doing that because that's their brainwave state. So the beliefs of their parents, their beliefs of their siblings, their friends, their teachers, their socioeconomic status, where they live, rural versus urban, is it safe? All of these things get programmed at a really, really young age. And Dr. Bruce Lipton even talks about that, your basic mindset is set by the time you're 7 years old.
Wow. You know that tell us what motivated you to become a mindset coach.
Yeah, so what motivated me was my own depression, but where it started was as a child. I was in kindergarten, and I had undiagnosed learning disabilities. So I transpose numbers and letters, and I have sometimes delay. It's very hard for me to memorize large amounts of information. So test taking was impossible for me. So here I was, also a year younger than most of the other kids in my class. I was one of the youngest, and everyone could read, could write, could do their math, and I was lost, which set off a chain reaction for me through my life of thinking that I was stupid.
Yeah, right.
And spent every summer in summer school, struggling, thinking that, okay, I don't have anything to offer. I'm worthless. I have nothing, I'm not smart. So I'm just going to go through life. And that's what I did. And I made it to college. Also, I'm an artist, so I discovered that I had artistic abilities. I tend to be more right brain creative. So when I had to fit into a conventional school system where I had to memorize to take tests, that automatically put me in a place of failure. It's just not the way I learn. But if I were, as a child, put in a different type of learning environment, I might have thrived. Right. So I was set up, in that mindset. And what I discovered as I got older, that I was actually smart. I just didn't know what my gifts were. So I think about, just as you talk about your stroke being one of your greatest gifts, my breakdown was one of my greatest gifts because it made me come to terms with who I am and what I wanted in my life, because I knew I wanted to live. I knew that. I was not going to check out. That was not an option. But I didn't want to live in that kind of depression and pain and heaviness, because that was no life either. So as I did this work and I found I found this woman who was helping me in an extraordinary way. She actually was a hypnotist. And she was bringing me into these deeper realms of thought and belief systems, helping release them. And then I was like, this is it. I want to do what she does. I want to be her. So I went to all the people that she studied with, and then I realized I can't be her. I have to be me. Now, what is that going to look like? So I went through, because I had this belief that I wasn't smart, I would overstudy So if you saw the stack of certifications that I have, it's about that thick. Because I always want to learn more and more and more, get more tools, because that was my wound, that I didn't know enough. So I went on to study with master teachers and people all over the world so that I would have the tools to help other people. And finally someone said to me, Lisa, you don't need another tool, because your gift is actually inside of you. It's not outside of you. You have that inner wisdom. You have a natural knowing of what you've been through in your life that no other tool is going to give you.
Wow.
And that was really powerful. And that really helped me with my confidence and helped me shift my mindset from going outside of myself to learn as much as I could, to start to rely on my own inner wisdom. And that's where the self-love came in, was honoring that in me. I had to do a deep discovery on who I am as a human being, what's important to me. And as I did that, it started to come out that I have this ability to see things that other people don't see. I can see the gifts in people's wounds. So when someone talks about what they're going through, I have a way to reframe it for people. And what I do is I release the traumas, I release the negative belief systems, and then we can't change what happened. Like, we can't change your stroke, but we could change the way you think about your stroke, which is the work that you've done. So if I help people release it and see it in a different way, and then they literally see the world through different eyes, just like you were able to do that with your stroke. Because most people, I would imagine, who've experienced a stroke initially could not see. And I imagine when you first had it, you didn't see it as a gift either.
No, in fact, it was, it's funny, it was a friend of ours, Jeff Hazlett, who taught me mindset. It's attitude. It's the way you think changes your trajectory of your life, your destination, or your destiny of life. And now I'm meeting you. I just am so excited to meet you and to have you on the show, because people are gonna wonder how you tie mindset and this belief and that way of thinking to change your life. I ain't here to tell you, and I know Lisa guarantees it work, but in business, personal life, business and personal, you want to change your life. You want, and I'm going to quote Jeff Hazlett, you want to be the most powerful person you can be. Learn to be yourself. Learn to be authentic. And that right there is a mindset, people.
Yes.
Don't think
Yeah.
much good.
No, it's so true. One of the things that I had learned early on in my training was something called a mask. How we walk around wearing these masks, pretending to be someone else, because we're so afraid that if people saw who we were, that they wouldn't accept us. So we pretend to be something other than we are. And forgive me for anyone who's in the used car business. This is just that, the first thought when I see is the perfect teeth, perfect smile, perfect hair, and, the salesman. And I'm like, does that person feel authentic to you, versus someone who's really raw and someone who's honest? Who are you going to trust? And I had an exercise that I had to do where my teacher had me hold a grapefruit. And he had 20 people in the class and he had them leave and he handed me the grapefruit and he said, you need to hide this grapefruit. When people come back in the room, no one can know that you have a grapefruit in your hand. So I was hiding it behind my back. I put my back up against the wall as people came back. And it was kind of like a cocktail party kind of a feel, where people were walking around talking to each other. When they finished the exercise, he asked me how much of my thoughts and how much of my energy were going into my conversation versus hiding the grapefruit. And I was like, oh, 90% of my thoughts were going into hiding the grapefruit, and I could barely hear what the other person was telling me.
Wow.
And that's what happens when we're not authentic. We're so busy worrying about what other people think. Are they going to see me? Are they going to not like me? Are they going to hire me? Are they not going to hire me? Oh, it's all my fault. If it doesn't, I'm going to screw up. I mean, think about all those things that go through our head. We don't even hear the other person and what they have to say.
Not this huge. I'm sorry. But you put into words, I've known this, but we're going to talk. We need to talk, please. We need to talk to Alvord. But you mentioned your book. And what is the name of the book and what motivated you to write the important book and why it was important to you to write?
Well, I have my book right here. I don't know if the lighting will show up. It's called In Every Belief is a Lie. And it's all about how we're programmed. It's a guide to exposing what controls your life and claiming your undisputed truth. Because, and I mentioned my whole journey. The first chapter is all about how, I came to, my ex-husband and I came to terms that we knew that we were on two different paths. We'd been together 29 years old. I was 19 when I met him. It was all I knew. And my identity was being a wife and a mother. Our kids were both graduating from college. And so all of a sudden, my identity got ripped out from under me. I was no longer wife and mother. I had a business, but my prime identity was that. So without that, who am I? And I had never been on my own because I got married so young. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it. And I was terrified. And I put myself through, this whole week of firewalking and walking on broken glass, bending rebar and arrows from my throat, because as a challenged personality, I know that about myself. I had to challenge myself to see what I could do. And I knew that once I did that, once I walked that 40 feet of coals, and what happened was the whole week I was convinced I was going to die. The whole week I was convinced that it was impossible, even though I was walking 10 feet a day. And finally, when I was getting ready to go, those poor people who were in my class who had to listen to me whine and complain and be a victim. And I realized this was a metaphor for my life. It was a complete metaphor of how I dealt with challenges. And finally, someone said to me, who asked me, how much fire have you walked this week? And I said, at least 7 to 10 feet a day. So he said, so that was 5 days ago, and you're walking 40 feet now. How much have you've already walked 40 feet, now go. And I literally walked. It was my easiest walk all week. I did not have a single scorch on my feet. How is that possible? It's mind over matter. And I will tell you that I would never let someone walk if they're depressed, because the way it works is we all are energy beings, right? People have heard the term chi energy. Well, fire has its own chi energy. So if you match or raise above the energy of the fire, you're not going to get burned. But if your energy is below the energy of the fire, then you will get burned.
Makes sense.
So it was about raising, like Tony Robbins does his fire walks. He's pumping people up. He's getting their energy. Now, from a scientific standpoint, people who think inside the box will say that's impossible and list all the scientific reasons why you can't do it. And people in our lives will do that for us. They will tell us why we can't do things, why it's medically impossible. I have had friends heal themselves of cancer who were told that they were basically had months to live, and they are now completely cancer free. We can do things just like you, recover from a stroke and have a podcast. Hello. I mean, I look at the extraordinary courage that you have of doing what you're doing and showing people that life doesn't have to stop after having a stroke. Life doesn't have to stop after. And does it mean that you don't have hardships? You're dealing with your issues every day, but you don't internalize and feel sorry for yourself. You're inspiring people. You're pushing people out of their comfort zone to take that next step.
Yeah, it's mindset. The difference in me, and I told you in the green room, the difference between me and not structure, when I was suicidal, I went through dark energy time, darkest times I've ever been through. But when I shifted my mindset, shifted the way I think, I told you that inspirational. Don't just think outside the box. Realize there is no box. And I said, oh wait, I don't have to be a victim. I can be a thriver. I can find life to stroke. Jeff Hazel told me I just need to shift my mindset. I need to think big, act bigger. And I did, Lisa. I did. And that's where I'm at today is I'm very happy with it.
No, it's extraordinary. And that's why when you can get into those other brain frequencies, the places where that information is stored, right? So as I talked about, there's theta, delta, theta, alpha. Alpha is a deep learning state. It's that creative state. It's where we actually move in and out of every day. So, for instance, anyone in the audience, if you've ever um, uh, meditated, you're actually putting yourself into the alpha state. When you've driven and you miss an exit and you keep going and you don't remember how you got somewhere, you're actually in a different brain frequency. And a lot of information is stored in those places that when we're here talking like now, when we're in beta, we don't have access to. And here's something else that's really fascinating. Greg Braden talked about this.
Wait,
If
you cut out. You're cutting out. Let's say it again because I didn't want to miss it.
Oh, okay. There's a fellow named Greg Braden. Okay, he's written a lot of books about biology and how it's our connection. He actually discovered that the name God is actually in our DNA. So it's interesting. He talks about the fact that our brain produces certain cells, they're brain cells. Our heart also produces similar cells that store information. Okay. So your brain is your intellect, your heart are your emotions, it's your soul, it's your core of your being. So if you're working on your mindset and you're just dealing with your intellect and you don't deal with the heart, your emotions, and all of that, you're only getting half of it. And so when you do this work, you need to do the cognitive and think about it's your body, physical body, because you always have to work on your body. It's your mental capacity, it's your emotional capacity, and it's also your spiritual, your soul. Because when you are in alignment with who you are at the deepest levels, that's when extraordinary things happen. But we are so afraid to step into that. We are so afraid that people are going to judge us. We're so afraid that people aren't going to like us as our true self with all the warts and all those beliefs. And what people don't realize is that that's what makes people extraordinary. When I come out and say, I was suicidal, I didn't want to be here. I was at a radio show in Florida, and this woman walked up to me and she said, I can't believe that you have this story because to meet you in person, you look like you have it all together. And I said, well, now I do. If you
Yeah,
met me a few years ago, it wouldn't have come off so well.
no. Well, Lisa, I'm really disappointed because we only have a few minutes up because I'm going to have to be back on the show because this topic, but it is life changing for everybody out there. If you're watching this on replay, please first subscribe to Stroke TV Media YouTube channel. Two, put it into practice. Contact Lisa. Lisa, how do we apply what we talked about to business?
So one of the things that I love so much is I'm a Y certified coach, among all of those other certifications. But what it does is it helps you take a test and it tells you your why, your how, and your what. So it's a discovery about who you are as a human being. It's not an assessment. There's tons of assessments. So you've got the DISC assessment, you've got all of these other assessments that tell you how you do things, but your why reflects every single part of your life. And then people will say, oh, my why is my family. No, you had your why before you had your family. So my why again is challenge because as a child, everything I do, I had to think outside the box. I had to learn differently. I dress differently. Everything that I do is because I'm different. And when I owned that, I realized that I need to do things in life that are different. The jobs that I take, and I've had clients who we did their discovery and found out they were challenged, but they were in a job that was what we call a right way person that's very structured and inside the box. That's why she was so depressed. So it helped give her direction on the type of work she needed to get into, and also in relationships because her husband was right way. And so when we understand how people work, how their brain works, how their thoughts work, how why they do the things that they do, you can better understand them. So, because we all think that everyone thinks just like us, right? That's the lens we see the world. So we think everyone has the same lens. It's not true. So when you have the why, you better understand everyone's lens and you can speak to it. For instance, if you have the why of trust and I'm in sales, I'm going to talk to you about how you can trust me. If you have the why of challenge, I'm going to use the language of thinking outside the box. This is different. This is unique. When you speak to someone in their language, people like people who are like them because they can relate and they establish trust faster. So the why can work in your personal work and in your business work and for teams, individuals, teams, and branding in the whole company. So it's really been an extraordinary journey of, helping people in their lives, in their individual work, personal, in their business, and helping them find the right path, helping them better relate to their team members and how they work, and with entrepreneurs and helping them with their branding. So it's so much fun. I love doing it. It's never a day of work,
Sure.
and yeah, it's fun, and I love speaking. I love all of it. I feel like, um, yeah, it never feels like a day of work. It's just every person I work with inspires me.
I've been building Stroke TV media now for about 8 years. I had never worked a day in my life. I mean, at the end
Exactly.
of the day, what I do is I have to watch it because I don't stop. Once I start getting that creative zone, the energy starts flowing. I can't watch that because 10, 12 hours can go by real quick.
Yeah.
But I want to ask, because we're down to the last 3 minutes, let's take an example. We have a business owner. Say he's struggling business. He's struggling with teams. He's he is just not being as successful as he could be. How can change his mindset? How can what your company and your why
Right.
help that person, help the business?
Right. So this is the cool part is that people's why is generally their business why, right? Because that's what's motivated. There's a reason why someone started a business. Like you have a reason for doing this to help other people. So when you have your why, for instance, my why is challenge. How I do that is I help people find a better way. And what I bring is the ability to make sense out of complicated situations and problems. So therefore, that's also the branding for my business. And now I have a partner, and my business partner speak in the terms of we think outside the box. We work with people who work outside the box, because someone who's right way may not want to work for me. They may want someone who's more of a therapist, has a more traditional way, and they feel safer in that. So when the company, then all their employees are all on the same path. They all have the same mission and method, the same language. to speak from. And you're going to hire people and attract people who buy into that why, who relate to that. Because the last thing you want is employees who don't buy into your brand.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. So, Lisa, we're down to close the show. It's only half an hour, but how do people? I just so everybody knows, if you go to the link in the description, you'll find her Lisa's website where you purchase her book. But what is the best way for people to get hold of you?
You know what? They can come through my LinkedIn, or they can email me. I'm in the process of rebranding everything, so I'm going to have a new name. It's going to be Center for Next Level Performance, but I don't have any of that now. So you can call me. You can reach me at Lisa Schermerhorn and then the number 1 at gmail.com. Or just again through Facebook, LinkedIn, just message me and I'm happy to get right back to you. And I do free discoveries. So I always love to talk to people, see how I can help them. And if I can't help them, I have a ton of people who I can always refer to as well.
Well, I really can't think enough. Like, I'm gonna be back. In fact, I'm thinking you'd be great to help my stroke survivors. So you and I will, if you're willing, will do a show within my stroke community.
I would love that. I'd be honored. I would truly be honored. And we need to figure out your why.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. I think I'm pretty close down. But Lisa, thank you so much for being there. I really, really wish you the absolute best in life. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're a great inspiration to me. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you, honey. I appreciate that. So we'll see you later then. Thank you so much.
Set me on